Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our home ground where the women's game feels personal and powerful, and we get to talk about all of the things happening with the women's game sort of off the pitch. This is a bonus episode, first bonus episode, which feels like maybe a little bit of a bold strategy, considering I've only released 3 episodes. But here we are. I'm so excited. The WSL is back. I'm in an Arsenal jersey. I'm not even trying to pretend like I'm not biased today. Arsenal played this morning. I'm recording this on Saturday, the 6th of September. Arsenal played this morning, my time. They had like a midday game in London, and I was very happy with that result. I'm sure if you're a London City Lionesses fan, you weren't so happy with the result, but that's not what we're here to talk about. What also happened this week is the transfer deadline closed on the 4th of September for the WSL. The NWSL transfer deadline closed, I think, on August 28th, and then I think some of the other European ones are like on the 10th of September. But most of the big transfers have happened, and so I want to talk about them. Fully transparently, I recorded an episode last night where I tried to cover WSL, NWSL, and some of the like German and French transfers. It was so boring. I bored myself while I was doing it, so I cannot imagine that any of you want to listen to me like list off random players. Okay, that's really disrespectful. I don't mean that. I just can't cover everything, is what I've decided. I don't know enough. So to me, they felt like random players. I couldn't give any information. So I didn't give any information. And it was literally over an hour long, anyways. And that is not what I wanted this to be. So I just pulled some of the like biggest ones from the WSL. That's where we're going to focus. And then at the end, I'll round up a couple of NWSL, German, French, and we'll kind of go from there. That's the plan for the episode. We'll see how far we get. But I'm really excited, and we're just going to go in alphabetical order, which does in fact mean we're going to talk about Arsenal first, but that's simply because of the alphabet. I thought about maybe doing something different, but then I was like, whatever, we're just going to talk about Arsenal. So here we go. I've seen a lot of chatter online about Arsenal's transfer window and whether or not it was like a good transfer window or if they should have done more. Like, I feel like a lot of people are like, they won the Champions League, they could get anybody. That's not always true. And I don't necessarily feel like clubs should pick up players just to pick up players. Like you should be filling holes. And yeah, that's my uneducated opinion on the matter. And so I think Arsenal did that. I think if they could have picked up another defensive midfielder or potentially a center back, since Leah Williamson is out for now, and as we'll get to, we have a hole in the defensive mid position at this point. I think that would be good, but they didn't. And so here we are. But they did sign Chloe Kelly to a permanent deal like really early on in July. Very exciting for Arsenal for her. She has been there on loan since like January. She was signed on deadline day on loan in January. And so she feels Arsenal. She is very clear that she is happy to be at Arsenal. And so it's really, really fun to have her. And then she scored a goal today. So we love that. Anyways, they also signed Taylor Hines from Liverpool on a free transfer. She plays sort of outside back. I think that is a place where Arsenal does not have any squad depth. And so I think that was a big gap filler there. So I'm really excited. She made her debut at the Emirates today. So yeah, and just in the preseason friendlies, she's looked really strong. So very excited about that. So that maybe Katie McCabe and Emily Fox don't have to play every minute of every game in every competition. I don't know, just an idea. The next person they signed and the last person I'm going to talk about is Olivia Smith, £1 million transfer. She was the first £1 million transfer. That record has been broken multiple times since her signing, but she will always be the first out of Liverpool. She's young Canadian. She's so good. She scored today a strike from like outside the box. It was gorgeous. You should go look at it. People were already saying, commentators were saying that it's contention for goal of the season. And it was the first game. So she really showed that like worth every penny that they spent on her. She started fit in seamlessly, it looked like, with what Arsenal's trying to do. So that was really exciting. As far as people going out, we're just going to talk about two of them. Michelle Adjumang, she's been the talk of the summer, I think, because of what a great Euros she had. So I think a lot of us Arsenal fans are like, should we keep her? Like, she's so good. We have Sina Blackstenius and Alessia Russo, who also play the nine, same position as Michelle. I think Michelle's at a point in her career. She's, again, young, 19, I think, where she needs to be getting regular minutes and get that. She wouldn't get that at Arsenal this season. So I do think that it was a good idea for them to send her on loan as much as I like want her to be on my team. So she has gone back to Brighton. She was with them last season, and they sent her back there. So I think that's really exciting and good for her and the growth of her game, which she will be pushing women's football forward forever. I'm so excited about her. And then the other person that we have to talk about is Leah Valti. She is leaving Arsenal after 7 years and she signed with Juventus. And I want to be so happy for her. I really, really do. But it leaves such a hole in the Arsenal team, not just like on the pitch, but off the pitch. She is described as everyone as like the heartbeat of the club and has been part of the leadership group, captaincy for many years. And so I'm really sad that she's leaving, and that's just the reality of it. Again, I think she wants to go get more regular minutes. She struggled with injury of late. She had a huge summer, captain of Switzerland, hosting the Euros, made it out of the group stage into the knockout rounds for the first time. Like, she deserves to go thrive, and I wish her all the best. And we will miss her a lot. I do think that that leaves a hole in this sort of like defensive mid six position. Kim Little played it today. She's obviously very good at it. Kyra Cooney Cross played it in some of the preseason games. So we'll see what happens there. But I do just worry a little bit about squad depth. But it looks like they're playing, maybe going to be playing like Jenna Nicewanger some more. She played more in the preseasons in the midfield, not so much in the outside back position that she had been playing. So I'm intrigued to see sort of what happens there. So yeah, Leah Valti, we will miss you a lot. You are very, very loved by the Arsenal fan base and will always be. The other person I want to talk about is actually not going out and didn't just come in, but it's Beth Mead. Reportedly, London City Lionesses made a bid for her, and quite a large one, and it was rejected by the club, and I think actually rejected by Beth herself. She's playing a different role this season. She's also been at Arsenal for a very long time. I want to say like 9 years, but maybe I'm misremembering that. Maybe it's not quite. Maybe it's also 7. Anyway, she's been there a really long time and she doesn't want to leave. She actually did an interview with The Guardian, which is great. I highly suggest everyone go listen to it, where she talked about the summer and being an Arsenal player and what it means. And she was just saying that Arsenal is a really, really hard place to leave. And she loves the club and she still thinks she has so much to offer the club. And she's right. Again, I do have the help of today's game to support this, but she came on as a sub in, I don't know, 70th minute or so. I don't actually know if that's true. Anyway, she came on later on in the second half and had 2 assists within like 2 minutes. So she is so good. Just her ability to, like, her veteranness to just like have the sense of like what to do, when to push, when to hold up play, like all of those things. That's all everybody was talking about on the commentary. And I agree. I think they're right. My uneducated opinion. But Beth is so important to this team. And she talks in that interview with The Guardian about how Renee has talked to her about what she offers off the pitch and like her leadership in that way. She got the captain's armband in a preseason friendly. So yeah, she's here. Beth Mead is here. And she seemed to be saying that she like wants to stay. She said like at some point in your career, you might have to leave. But right now, like there's just too much here for me. I'm not going anywhere. Her contract is up after this year, but I'm saying it. I've told all my friends this. I think the next news we're going to hear about Beth Mead is that she's signing a new contract with Arsenal. I don't think she wants to go. Okay, that was a lot of talk about Arsenal, and I won't spend as much time on all the other teams because they're not my favorite teams. But let's talk through some of the other ones. Aston Villa. I think this is something that we need to be talking about more. Aston Villa traded Jordan Nobbs to Newcastle United when I guess they didn't trade her contract was up, but she's gone. And this is the first WSL season without Jordan Nobbs in it. And I think that's a big deal. Legacy players like that don't come around very often. And so I just think Jordan Nobbs's impact on the game is incredible. And I love that she's still playing. She's in the WSL too, so she's not like gone, but not having her in the WSL, I think is a big loss for the sport. I just think she's an incredible footballer. Great pickup for Newcastle United. Excited to see how she fits in there, but just we don't have any OG players left in the WSL. She's the only one who was in the very first season and played every season since. So there's that. Aston Villa also signed Ellie Roebuck from Barcelona. She's a goalkeeper. If you're not aware of her story, she had some sort of stroke when she was at City, like 2 years ago-ish, probably. She also has a new article out that I would highly suggest everybody read. It's called Hell by Ellie Roebuck. I think she did it with The Atlantic. Probably should have known that. Anyways, would highly suggest reading that. She's super vulnerable about like how scary it was and her experience. And so really great to see her back in the WSL. She is back in fitness and like ready to play. And so that's really, really exciting. She was England's like number one goalkeeper in the 2020 Olympics. Like she's a big deal. And so having her back healthy and back in the WSL is really exciting. So big up to that. All right, moving on to Brighton. So Brighton, we already touched on this a little bit, got Michelle Adjumang from Arsenal. I think that's a huge pickup for them. She's so good, and I think that will be really, really exciting for them. They also got Rosa Kafaji from Arsenal on loan for the season. Both forwards. Rosa tends to play, I think, more of the like 10 or winger position than sort of the strict nine. But we'll see what they do with her. We haven't gotten to see a lot of her at Arsenal. People were really excited about her when we signed her last year, and then she struggled with some injury and didn't get a ton of minutes. So I'm excited to see what happens there. They also signed Maëlys Pome. I don't know how to say her last name, and I'm so sorry. She played for Chelsea last season. I think that's a great pickup for Brighton. I think those are three really strong players to come in for them, and I'm excited to see how that helps them compete in the league. So I think that'll be really good. They did lose Nikita Paris to London City Lionesses, which I think is a big loss for them. Nikita's a great player, so we'll see how that goes. And then they also lost Poppy Pattinson to London City as well. All right, moving on to Chelsea. There are so many things we could talk about with Chelsea. They actually didn't get that many new players in, but my God, the players that they got in are insane. We're only going to talk about two of them. Ellie Carpenter from Lyon, crazy big pickup. She is so fast, so talented. She played in their game against Man City this weekend and just fit in seamlessly. She played right back for them. Clearly, Ellie had played with Sonia Bonpastor for a couple of years, so Sonia knows her really well. She knows Sonia well, so fitting into the system has not been difficult for her from the outside. Like, obviously, I'm sure she's had her own challenges internally, but she looked great. The other person that they signed is Alyssa Thompson, the 20-year-old out of Angel City. She's a phenomenal forward. She plays on one of the outsides. She can play right or left. She is so, so good. And that is a crazy pickup from Chelsea. They paid a lot of money for her. The fee has not been disclosed, but it's assumed to be about $1.5 million to Angel City. But Chelsea's been doing this thing with NWSL teams where they like spread it out over multiple years. I didn't even know that was a thing, but reportedly that's what happened with Naomi Girma's fee. I didn't even know that until this transfer window. So, yeah, I'm actually so annoyed that Chelsea signed Alyssa Thompson because she's so good. And she's young and she's fast. And I just think she's going to fit into their team really, really well. So, clearly, as an Arsenal fan, I don't love that. But very excited for Alyssa Thompson as a U.S. Women's National Team fan. I think it's an incredible opportunity for her. I think she'll learn so much from players like Yo-Yo Ratin-Canred and Gura Wrighton and, I mean, Sandy Baltimore. Like, all of those wingers will just teach her so much because there's a lot of experience in that team. And hopefully she'll have an easier transition, even though she's really young, because Naomi Girma's there, Kat McCarry was there. She knows them both. So, yeah. Begrudgingly, I'm like really excited for her. And I watched Chelsea play last night and I'm just already annoyed. I'm over it. 90 minutes in and I was over it. 45 minutes in, I was over it. But whatever. I'm trying not to be bitter. Chelsea did lose the official to Seattle for an undisclosed fee, of course. Chelsea like never discloses their fees, and I find that annoying. But Mia Fishel is a striker. She had torn her ACL when she was with the U.S. Women's National Team, like not this past February, but the February before. She did come back and was healthy at the end of last season, but just wasn't getting the kind of minutes that she wanted there. She's at Seattle now. So very excited for her about that. They also lost Zachira Musovic. I think her contract was up. She was pregnant. She just recently had a baby, but she did sign with Malmo FF. So she will be back playing football. I think she's a Swedish international, but she was like a big personality on that team. And so I think those kinds of things are worth noting. All right, our next team is Everton. And I think this team had a sneaky good window, but I will be very honest, this is not a team I know really anything about. But like on paper, it looks like they got some good signings. And so I'm excited to see their sort of a mid to bottom of the table team usually. So I'm excited to see like how they compete this year. I think it'll be fun. They signed Maz Pacheco from Aston Villa on a permanent deal, which I think is a great pickup for them. And then they also signed Ruby Mace from Leicester. Ruby Mace is younger, has gotten some interest from England, Serena Wiegman of late, and so I think that's really exciting that Everton picked her up. They signed Katie Robinson on loan from Villa for the season. Katie Robinson went to the World Cup in 2023 with England, and so she's clearly a very talented player. So I'm excited to see how Everton matches up this year. I think it'll be fun. Next team that we're going to talk about is Leicester. They signed on deadline day, or maybe it was the day before, Emily Van Egmond from Birmingham City. She is an Australian international. She's kind of bounced around a little bit. She was in San Diego and then came to Birmingham City and tried to help them get promoted last season. That clearly didn't happen. And so now Leicester has signed her. So really excited to have her back in the WSL. She's a fun player. We love the Aussies in this house. So that's fun. Leicester also got Cecily Wellesley-Smith from Arsenal on loan. She's a center back. Excited to see if she gets some minutes. And I like to see the young players go get minutes. And then Leicester did lose a couple of players. Most notably, I think, is Courtney Nevin to Malmo. But otherwise, not a lot of things that I could talk confidently about going on with Leicester. So moving on to Liverpool, they did sign in some interesting players, I think, one of which is Sam Kerr from Bayern Munich. This was really funny when this was announced by Liverpool because Chelsea kind of like played into it. For those of you who are confused, there are two Sam Kerrs. They do spell their name the exact same way. They are not the same person. One is Australian and one, I actually don't know where the other Sam Kerr is from, and I'm sorry about that. But Sam Kerr plays for Liverpool from Bayern Munich. She's a midfielder, but Chelsea was like, Sam Kerr to Liverpool. They like sent it in their like Instagram private chat, whatever those things are called. And everybody was like, what in the world is happening? What is going on? And then we realized it was the other Sam Kerr, but it was funny. So good on Chelsea admin for that. Liverpool also signed Lily Woodham from Seattle. Young player, excited to see how she does in the WSL. And then they also got Alejandra Barnabe. Don't know if that's how you say her last name, from Chelsea on deadline day. So excited to see if she can get some more minutes at Liverpool than she was able to get at Chelsea. Liverpool did have three really big losses, two of which we've already talked about: Taylor Hines to Arsenal and Olivia Smith to Arsenal. Taylor Hines is a fabulous player. Olivia Smith had a breakout season at Liverpool. She was Young Player of the Year for the PFA, and so clearly that's a big loss for them. And then they also lost their goalkeeper, Tegan Micah. She went to Lyon. So lots of changes going on at Liverpool. Intrigued to see how their season goes. And now we are to London City Lionesses. They could have their own like 3 episodes of a podcast, I think, just to talk about them and what's going on there and the Michelle Kang of it all. And we don't have time for that today. And I don't want to talk about that by myself. I would have a guest on to talk about that because I certainly have opinions and I want to know what other people think. But all of that to say, reportedly they've spent over £3 million this transfer window, which is just an incredible amount of money. They've signed like over 15 new players. It's at least 15. I thought it was 16, but the people on commentary, the pundits today, said that it was 15. So I trust them more than I trust myself, to be honest. Anyways, there are a few notable ones that I want to talk about. Yana Fernandez from Barcelona. Interestingly, they got her on a free. Barcelona just like terminated her contract instead of getting money for her. That is like a wild situation. There was like a rumor that it was going to be like 500,000 euros, but then it's reported that it was a free. So that's crazy. London City did sign Alana Kennedy and Katie Zellum from Angel City. I think there are a lot of questions right now about the NWSL and the salary cap, and I would point you to the recap show. Tobin, Heath, and Kristen Press did a whole podcast episode about that when Alyssa Thompson was rumored to be going to Chelsea, and a lot of talk about like the salary cap. I actually haven't watched the episode yet because I didn't want to just come on here and like regurgitate everything they were saying. Send you that direction. I'm excited to watch it because I really value their opinions. Angel City lost 3 big players, although they didn't really utilize Katie Zellum. That's beside the point. I'm going on a tangent. But Katie Zellum, Alana Kennedy, both signed with London City from Angel City, and they both started today. So that's exciting for them. And Alana Kennedy was back in her center back position. Angel City was trying to play her at like the 6th, the defensive midfielder, and I just don't think that's her best spot. We already talked about Nikita Paris from Brighton, but that's, I think, really exciting. She also started for London City today, so I think that's great. They signed Danielle Vandendonk from Lyon. I think that's a great pickup for experience on their in their team. She has played in the WSL. She played at Arsenal for a while. So excited. She was injured, not on the team sheet today, so assumed to be injured, I guess. But hopefully we'll get to see her healthy and fit and getting a lot of minutes and playing for them because she's really fun to watch. And then the big signing is Grace Gioro from PSG for reportedly, it's an undisclosed fee. That's the common theme here, but it's reportedly about 1.4 million pounds, which is almost 2 million US dollars. So much money. She might be the first $2 million transfer. We're not exactly sure. She certainly broke the record. She has the highest transfer fee of anyone ever at this point. So that's cool. I think it's really cool for the women's game. Again, there's a lot of controversy surrounding Michelle Kang and the multi-club ownership. I saw a lot of chatter online of like, Grace is going to be at Lyon within 2 years, and maybe she will. And I don't know that I actually have a problem with that, because I do think there's also something to be said for not transferring from one club immediately to the rival club, like taking a sort of like cooling off period in between. But that's just my opinion. The other thing that happened with London City is that they released lots of players, terminated contracts with lots of players who helped them get promoted to the WSL. So I think there's some like not loving of that, which part of me is like fair. Again, what they were talking about on comms today was that these were a lot of them were fringe players for them anyway. And so this is kind of what happens when you get promoted to the WSL. Usually most teams don't spend $3 million and sign all of these like superstars onto their team, but Michelle Kang came in and said, I want to finish top four, which is a crazy thing for her to say. I'm predicting they finish top seven, though. They looked good for the first, they looked really good for the first like 20 minutes. Arsenal was also, nobody knew anything about them. So I think that's kind of a benefit that they have. Like nobody knows what to expect from them. So their first couple of games, I think that'll be really good for them. Then once there's enough like game footage, I think people will figure them out. But they looked really good for the first like 20 minutes. They won a penalty, converted, and then Arsenal figured them out. And then in the last about 20 minutes, they really fell off. So hopefully they're able to like really compete and stay up. And I don't know. I think they'll do well this season. So that's all of the London City chatter that I have for now. Time to talk about Man City. So they, I think, had a good transfer window too. I think Man City is going to be more dangerous than people are giving them credit for. Fingers crossed if they can stay healthy. They've struggled a lot with injury in the past couple of seasons. And so I really, really hope, I guess really just last season, but I hope people can stay healthy this year and they can really push for like top three, getting into Champions League qualification, that kind of thing. So, first player they signed is Amon Benny. She's a young player. She was playing at Young Boys and got signed on to City. She did play for them against Chelsea. She came on for Viv Miedema at the end and looked pretty dangerous, actually. So I'm really excited to see how that goes. They also signed Sydney Lohman from Bayern Munich, and she started for them against Chelsea. Really excited about her. She seemed to fit into their system well. Of course, there's like growing pains. Wasn't a perfect game, but exciting. They also signed Jade Rose. She's a Canadian. She was playing at Harvard in the American university system. So that's really exciting. I love that we're seeing Canadians like coming onto the scene, big signings, really exciting because I don't know that Canada is always a national team that we think of when we think of like the big teams. And so I'm really excited. I think it'll be fun and I hope that this kind of thing continues to happen and that the game continues to grow in Canada. They now have a professional league in Canada, so that's really exciting. Jade Rose is a center back. She started for City against Chelsea and I think had a pretty good game. So they also signed Laura Wienreuther from Arsenal. She had been there on loan for the end of last season and is now there on a permanent basis. So hopefully she can stay healthy and provide them some squad depth in the outside back positions. And then finally, the deadline day signing Grace Clinton from United to City. I think this transfer is particularly interesting because of the statement that Grace put out when she was leaving. She said something about how her goals for the future and the club's goals aren't aligned, and so she is leaving. I find that so interesting because they let that sit there for a couple of hours before City announced signing her. And I do think that was intentional because the promotional materials that they had for her were taken in the light of day. So it's not like they signed her at whatever 8 p.m., which is I think when they like announced it was later in the evening. And maybe they just wanted to have all the promotional material before they did it. I don't know. I just think it's really interesting. I think the Man United of it all is interesting right now based on the comments that their like club owner or whoever he was made about how they're not prioritizing the women's team last spring he made those comments, and it's like I don't know why I would want to stay at Man United if the owner was saying that, but here we are. We're back at City. They lost some big players as well. Obviously, Chloe Kelly to Arsenal. She had been gone since January and they like weren't really utilizing her. Anyways, Leia Alexandri to Barcelona. Interesting, the only signing that Barcelona had because they don't have any money. And she was actually signed like before I think they were like made aware that they don't have any money. So, I mean, that's a great pickup for them. She's a fantastic player. Jill Roord left and went to FC 20 in Netherlands. I don't know why I forgot what that place was called. And then lastly, they lost Jess Park, who went to United. So remember that comment I made earlier about like a cooling off period between rivals? Yeah, that didn't happen. Jess Park went from Man City to Manchester United, which is crazy. And there's like really funny people on the internet, I think are actually so funny. There was somebody put like the clip of the twins from Parent Trap being like, I have a great idea. We should swap places. They like put that clip and they were like Grace and Jess when they were roomies at the Euros, which is just like so funny because they did like technically switch places. They play a different role in the team, I think, or I would utilize them differently, in my opinion, uneducated opinion. But yeah, that happened. That's real. So I think that'll be really, really interesting. I will say I'm so excited to see the friendship, interaction, whatever, between Grace Clinton and Viv Miedema. I think they'll be so funny because Grace is kind of like a bit of a pest and like a little bit annoying, but gets along really well with Beth Mead, which is Viv's girlfriend. And so I think it'll be really funny because I think that they'll be friends and Viv will also be like annoyed by her. So I love it. I can't wait to see it. Moving on to Manchester United, I know that we talked about them a little bit with the Grace Clinton of it all, but formally moving on to talk about some of the other things going on there. They signed Julia Zigiati Olme from Bayern, which I think is a good pickup from them. They also got Fridolina Rolfo. She came from Barcelona. Her contract was up at Barca, and I think that's a huge pickup for them. She is a fantastic player, so I'm really excited to see what she can do for them. And then, of course, they got Jess Park from City, like we talked about. Otherwise, they didn't do a ton of other business, and I think a lot of it has to do with United not being a super desirable place to be based on comments made by the ownership group or whoever's in charge, somebody saying that they don't really care about the women's team. So I wouldn't want to play there. As I said, they did lose. Aoife Mannion went to Newcastle United, and then of course Grace Clinton went to City. Moving on, Tottenham Hotspur. They barely did any business. I think they had like six total player interactions or something during this whole window. So that's really interesting. They did sign two new players. They're players I'm unfamiliar with, so I can't tell you a lot about them. And then they did lose Haley Rasso to Eintracht Frankfurt. I think that's interesting. She's a Australian international. I almost said Canadian. She's not. She's super Aussie. Australian international, and she's kind of been hopping around a little bit of late. So hopefully she will find a home there that she, is happy with. She already made a debut for them and yesterday on her birthday, and she seemed really happy about it. So that's good. Tottenham also lost Becky Spencer to Chelsea. She signed there on a permanent deal. She had been there on a loan since January. Since the spring, I think they signed her on like a kind of like a hardship contract because Zachira Musovic was pregnant. So there's that. And then West Ham, our last team. I don't know a ton about the players that they signed and released, and so I'm not going to talk a lot about it. I think that their biggest signing is Fionn Morgan. She is a striker. She is a Welsh international. She got to play at the Euros for Wales. Very, very exciting. But I think what's really fun about her and why I know who she is because she posts vlogs. She like vlogs her life, like day in the life of a footballer. And I just think it's so interesting because it connects with the fans in a way that I think is really, really important and like fun and makes it feel like accessible to us in a controlled way that she is in control of all of that. And so I'm excited to see what she does for West Ham. I think she's going to be fantastic. I know several of my friends picked her up on their fantasy team because we just think she's going to thrive there. So I'm really excited about that. They did have a big loss in Princess Adamaluyi to Gotham for what's reported to be a pretty hefty fee, 6 figures, but again, undisclosed actually what it is. But those are sort of the two main things going on there. So yeah, that's the WSL. There are a couple other like big news signings that I do want to talk about that are outside of the WSL. Let's get into it. The first one is Ali Sentnor to Kansas City from Utah. That had me shook. I was not prepared for that. I do not blame Allie at all for wanting to go to somewhere outside of Utah because I do think other teams will be able to develop her game better than Utah. I think she needs that. She's at that point in her career where she still has a lot to learn and a lot of experiences to have. And I think she will be much better served, getting to be in playoff football and those kinds of things at a team like Kansas City. Do I think Kansas City needed any more firepower? Absolutely not. So, like, I don't love that. But Kansas City did pay $700,000 for her. It's going to be spread out over a couple of years in like interleague transfer funds. But I just think that's so cool and good for her to go for such a high price tag. The like announcement in the first couple of days of media about that were really, really cute because Claire Hutton is her best friend and she plays for Kansas City. So she like went and picked her up at the airport and stuff. And so it's been very, very cute. Allie has debuted for Kansas City and she's just a great footballer. So excited for her, not excited for Kansas City to be better. That's what I'll say. Other really exciting news, or was really exciting news at the time, was Lisbeth Jacqueline Ovalle to Orlando from Tigres. That's a Mexican team. It was, again, the exact fee hasn't been disclosed, but it was confirmed that it's the highest transfer fee ever at that time. That has now been beaten by the London City deadline day transfer, but reported to be about $1.5 million. So that's really cool. I think it's cool to see the NWSL paying so much money for players because often we're seeing that coming out of WSL England, even French League or something like that, not always out of the NWSL. So I think that's exciting. Last NWSL transfer I want to talk about is McKenna Morris to Louisville from the Washington Spirit. They paid $115,000 for her. And I'm excited to see what she does at Louisville. I also always think it's interesting when somebody transfers from a city like Washington, D.C. to a city like Louisville, Kentucky. Was the player interested in that? All those things, because those are just like two completely different vibes. But we'll see. I hope that she does great and I hope that she loves it there. So that's the NWSL news. Moving over to Europe again, I want to talk about Vanessa Gilles to Bayern Munich. Weird to say which club she came from because she had been most recently playing at Lyon, but she was like technically there on loan from Angel City, but then she said she wasn't coming back to Angel City because of the state of our country, which like fair enough. I have no argument there. But then like Angel City maybe terminated her contract, but also her contract at Lyon was up, so it was like kind of this weird thing. Anyways, she ended up at Bayern Munich. She has debuted for them. She helped them win the Super Cup. She played in their preseason friendlies. Seems to be doing great there. I really like her, also a Canadian international. And so, I hope that she has a great season with Bayern Munich. That's exciting. Next player who potentially I would argue was my like unsung hero of the Euros is Yola Brand. She is a German international. I think she was incredible, like actually insane at the Euros. She had such a great tournament. She has signed to Lyon from Wolfsburg, which I think is a great move for her. I hope that she fits into Lyon seamlessly. Lyon signed a lot of midfielders. Again, they compete in all the tournaments in Europe and in France, and so they need a lot of squad depth. But they also signed Lily Johannes out of Ajax, which is really, really exciting. I'm like one of her biggest fans. She's young. She's like 18, but just so, so talented. She's in with the U.S. women's national team. She had Netherlands in the U.S. like fighting over her. Reportedly, she says that they were both like super supportive and wanted her to like do what was right for her. But she was 17 and they were fighting over her. Like, come on, that's crazy. And then they also signed Corbin, used to be Albert, now Schrader. She just got married. I'm not her biggest fan, but she is also a midfielder. So interesting just to see like what happens with that at Lyon because they also have Lindsay Heaps and other midfielders already on their team. So we'll just see what happens there. I'm intrigued. I follow Lyon peripherally, so we'll see what goes on there. Another interesting signing was Sarah de Brits to Real Madrid from Lyon. I think she Her time was kind of up at Lyon and wanted to get more playing time, and she has been playing for Real Madrid, although they lost their first two games, which is like unheard of for them. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there, and what's going on. Another really interesting signing to me is Olga Carmona to PSG from Real Madrid. Olga Carmona got a lot of name recognition after her performance at the World Cup 2023, which I think she deserved. It's interesting to kind of see like where she's kind of landed. So hope she does great at PSG. Another interesting signing is Marie Antoinette Gatoto to Lyon from PSG. Again, I believe that they're direct rivals. I've always assumed that they are. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like Paris FC and PSG are probably actual rivals, but PSG and Lyon are the ones who are usually competing for like the titles. So I think it's interesting that there was that sort of like direct transfer there, but really excited. She's a really exciting player. So we'll see what goes on there. And then there are two things that I want to talk about that aren't necessarily like signings, but Lika Martins has officially retired from football. She retired from international football earlier in the year and then now has like officially retired. And when we lose legends of the game, I'm excited for her. I hope she loves retirement. I hope she enjoys every moment of it. But I just think it's sad when we lose legends of the game. So worth noting. And then the other thing, it's like technically not a new signing, but as far as like on the pitch, it feels like a new signing is Lena Oberdorf is back from her ACL and had her debut for Bayern in their Super Cup game last weekend. She signed for them last summer transfer window, early on in the transfer window, and then tore her ACL kind of like immediately after. Really, really tragic for her, honestly. Like, that's so hard. But she's back. And the world is a better place when Lena Oberdorf is playing football. She is so fun to watch. She is so good. What she could do with the ball, off the ball, she's just incredible. So I'm really, really excited about her debuting for Bayern. All right, last thing I want to talk about, and I don't even know what to say, this will continue to be talked about, is the downfall of Barca. Look, I am not Barcelona's biggest fan. I'm not a hater though. Like I'm like, okay, great. Like I like some of the players that are there, whatever. But to have a club that has been like dominating women's football for the last 5 years, maybe even longer than that, have the kind of crumbling that they're having right now simply because their men's side has spent too much money is absolutely insane, in my opinion. I would have never thought that a club like Barcelona, with its name recognition and its history of success, would be in a situation where they have like less than 20, and I think it's down to like 16 or 17 like first team players. That's it. That's their whole squad. And they have the past several years have had like the biggest names in football all at their club. Lots of them have left of late, but they still have Alexi Putellas and Aitana Bonmati and Onabache and like Patrick Guijarro. And I mean, so many, right? Like you could name their whole like starting 11 are iconic and even some of their bench. But to not be able to have a full squad, they're having to have their academy players in their squad in a way that I don't think that they were like intentionally ready to do is just devastating for the women's game broadly. To see a club like that sort of crumble in the way that it is really, really sad. And I hate it. That's what I have to say about that. Yeah, I'm really happy that Arsenal beat them in the Champions League final and Arsenal won the Champions League, of course. But I still want them to be a big club and to be competing for trophies and all these things. And if you don't have enough squad depth, it's not going to happen. And players are going to get injured. Like, I'm really worried about injuries that are going to happen from overuse and too much playing and all of those things. And so, I don't know. I'm very concerned about what's happening at Barcelona. Okay, I have yapped enough. I've covered as much as I could cover. Hopefully, this was interesting. I do think that this was a little bit more conversational than the list that I tried to do previously, but let me know what you think. Who is your favorite signing? Leave a comment below. Who is your most impactful signing? What are you most excited about? What signing are you most annoyed about? I'm most annoyed about Alyssa Thompson to Chelsea because she's so good. Like, it's actually a compliment, I think, and I'm just annoyed about it. But yeah, what do you guys think? Who's your favorite? What's your least favorite? And I don't know, find us on YouTube, Spotify. We have an Instagram, we have a TikTok. I don't know. Come see us. There will be another episode dropping on Wednesday, and it has a guest on it. So I am so, so, so excited. It is my first episode with a guest. I'm recording another episode with a different guest next week for the following week. So lots of exciting things going on here. If you liked this, let me know. If you didn't, I don't care about your opinion anyways. So hope everybody's enjoying the first weekend of like WSL back. Other European football is back, and it's also NWSL season still. This is my favorite time of year. So, anyways, I hope everybody has a good one. Catch you next time.